Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live Q&A session with Martin Witte from TÜV SÜD. I'm Elena Kyria, founder of Elemed and also head of marketing for RAPS Swiss chapter. And I've also got Karen here, who's going to be assisting us with making sure that this is all running super smoothly. Martin, welcome.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very happy that a lot of people joined. A few words about myself. I'm Martin Witte. I'm in TÜV SÜD responsible for a couple of things, active medical implants, cardiovascular devices, and also department manager for active medical implants. And I joined the organization a bit of over 6 years ago, auditor, product specialist. And prior to that, I worked in industry, high-risk products, did technical documentations or design dossiers, as you call them. And yeah, since a couple of years, and I think I'm in the industry for 12 years now, and I think 10 years is somewhat connected to changing AIMDD, MDD to MDR. And I remember first discussions in the early times where they thought that getting rid of notified bodies would be a good idea. We are now in a situation where notified bodies still exist, which is a good thing in my point of view. Over the last couple of years, we've faced a lot of challenges getting the MDR done, also internally, but also from our clients. And I think now with the postponement, we are in a quite challenging situation because we might have all prepared for the May departure of the MDR, and now we are waiting another year, like when you're sitting at the airport, when you remember those times and the plane is delayed by 15 minutes, an hour, 3 hours. It feels a bit like that. And so TÜV SÜD as a notified body has been notified as a notified body under the MDR for quite a while now. And IVDR is also now one of our services we can offer. So we're always happy to requests from customers, and I hope that this session will help you to get some valuable answers to your questions.
Excellent. So let's jump straight in then Martin, and everybody, if you have kind of new questions that are coming up during the scope of the conversation, feel free to drop them in the chat directly to Karen, and we're going to try and allow kind of like 10 minutes at the end for new questions that are coming out of today. We're not going to be able to get through everything, but we're going to try and attack as much of it as we possibly can. So Martin, I've got a really easy one for you to start with, okay, which has come in from Netanya, and she was basically asking, where do you get training in the basics of IVDR and MDR? So this is an opportunity for you to probably talk about what TÜV can offer there.
Yeah, so TÜV SÜD as a notified body, and as I think all TÜVs in Germany, we also have a sub company or sister company that's called TÜV SÜD Akademie. Mainly they provide trainings in German. Maybe that's for Swiss-based, Austrian-based, and Germany-based clients still acceptable. However, we also provide trainings outside of Germany, and there is also the opportunity and the possibility to actually book a trainer for your facility, and then the training will be held at your facility with the relevant people. I did some of those trainings at manufacturers, and I think those are pretty valuable because you can exchange best with these people then. Yeah, but there are also other organizations who offer trainings, and I wouldn't say they are bad or worse than TÜV SÜD. I mean, there is high quality training out there, so I think the amount of services is huge out there.
Cool. So next question. So and just one thing I want to highlight to everyone: there are certain questions that we can't ask because obviously notified bodies can't consult. So try not to make your questions too kind of in the area of consulting. Otherwise, Martin won't be able to actually answer them. So another question, the first question that we have then, Martin, for you a little bit more into the technical side is talking about how much clinical data is necessary for the new MDR regulation.
And I think that's the grandmother of all questions. And I can easily answer it: sufficient. And of course, you're all now frustrated because I don't tell you 39 patients in a study are fine. No, it's about how much clinical data is necessary is a very, very difficult question to ask and to give a precise answer. It depends on your device. It depends on the risk. It depends on the novelty of your device. And of course, you can sometimes get an MDR approval with a limited amount of clinical data. Sometimes you need to do, I don't know, several studies with hundreds of patients to have the amount of data that satisfies the requirements from the MDR. And the MDR is intentionally vague on that because it can't be too precise, because it needs to cover like 500,000 medical devices. So this is a tough question. And I understand the challenge for the industry. However, the typical notified body response to that question is, it depends.
But for example, if somebody, wanted to find out more, or, read some guidance on it, or, where can they go to find that information?
So basically, I think if you are interested in clinical data and the requirements from the MDR, there is and there will be a lot of guidance coming from the MDCG. Yes, not all of that guidance is really what we want it to be, but it's at least guidance, yeah? Then there are, of course, guidances from earlier regulations, so from directive time. And I would say if you followed MedDev guidances up to the latest revision, you got an impression on how clinical data, how clinical evidence needs to be collected, needs to be evaluated, needs to be summarized. And it will guide you to a direction that should be okay. However, if you follow MedDev, then you will be MDR compliant is something we can, of course, not state.
Okay. So partly answered there, but not totally.
No, that question will never be answered totally by a notified body.
That is really a highly debated question in many of the conferences, that we attend.
Yes.
Always asked. All right, so next one for you. This is from Rainer Folkson. What is the definition of state of the art?
Yeah, Rainer, state of the art, that's also a very interesting question, because state of the art also connected with the latest discussion on harmonization of standards under the MDR is a quite big challenge currently. Now, state of the art is, and TÜV SÜD has there a certain understanding of state of the art that might differ a bit from other interpretations, but state of the art is the fundamental of all our compliance proofs. Why is that? Because we want to have safe medical devices. And if we see things developing on the market or in technology, standardization is always behind. Yeah, sometimes only a year, sometimes 10 years behind. Now, if this discussion around state of the art comes up, often it is discussed that state of the art is the harmonized standards. Yeah, well, when under the MDR, we don't have harmonized standard. What will be the state of the art? That is in a way connected to clinical evaluations as well, because there you need to figure out what state of the art in terms of clinical practice is. And for technology, it's the same. And I would like to make a very simple explanation around this. State of the art for greeting someone in person 3 months ago was handshaking. It no longer is. So state of the art can change immediately from one day to the other. So it's a constant ongoing activity in your organization to determine what is state of the art for your device. And that is, again, it depends answer, but yeah, I hope you can accept it.
So are you saying that it's the responsibility of the manufacturer to define what state of the art is for them and their product?
That's basically the responsibility of the manufacturer to state what from their viewpoint state of the art is, and the notified body is responsible to challenge that, because if the notified body sees that the justification of the manufacturer is not in line with their understanding of state of the art, then there is, of course, a discussion, yes.
Okay. So we have a question from Fabrice, which is a big one, which is, are notified bodies actually ready for MDR, which is the first and then IVDR.
Yes.
Okay.
Interestingly, this morning I've seen this commission paper released, and there was only a very small number of MDR notified body responding to that poll. And interestingly, there were 10 to 3% notified bodies who are not accepting applications under MDR. I'm wondering who that is or why that is, but talking about TÜV SÜD, yes, we are ready, and yes, we do MDR activities, and yes, we have released certificates.
Okay. What is your response to companies that say, wildcard question, this is from me. What is your response to companies that say they try to get in touch with TÜV SÜD, but they don't get any response, or that the responses are taking way too long from the organization?
So it might be true that due to the amount of requests we see, it can take a while. We've actually set up a web page where you should register when you want to have MDR certification with us, and that's tuvsud.com MDR inquiry. And if you fill in your data there, you internally handled by a defined group of people, and then the response should be quickly. And it might be that in the past it was a bit delayed because of the huge amount we've seen, plus the amount of MDD, AIMDD activities the organization was still doing, because the postponement of the MDR was a surprise. So we had to finish the other stuff first.
Okay. So next question that we have, I think this is really within your scope as well. Arjun wanted to know a little bit more around cybersecurity and cybersecurity requirements and how that plays in with MDR.
Yeah, so the MDR is requesting some interesting new things under the general safety and performance requirements. And if you have an active device that's running software that's connected to a network, you need to make sure that that data is protected. However, if you really looked at what happened before the MDR was published, cybersecurity was already a question. And basically, cybersecurity is a question coming from risk management. And the MDR doesn't really change a lot in risk management. I mean, if I have data on my device or I handle data, and if there is the risk that someone attacks my data or wants to steal my data, then risk management wise, you should have taken care of that. And MDR is just highlighting it more than the MDD, AIMDD. But that cybersecurity is a big topic is obvious. So
just looking at what's coming in on the chats as well, Martin. So there's quite a lot of interest around TÜV and certificates. So one question was, how many MDR certificates has TÜV SÜD released?
That's of course an internal secret. A couple of is not 3. It's quite a bigger number.
So I had a feeling you were going to answer like that. So actually, another question that hopefully we can have a little bit more clarity on there is with regards to IVDR. So what is the status with regards to TÜV SÜD and accepting applications for IVDR? And then how can companies apply for IVDR certificates?
So if you are already in contact with us, then you best approach us through that person you are in contact with. The MDR inquiry form will be extended to an IVDR inquiry form as well. So we'll collect the data through a similar process there.
So that's not live yet, but that's coming.
Let me see. I can just open it and then I tell you if it's running already or not.
And maybe after this, we can go to Andrea Biascucci, who I know had a very specific question, and maybe there we can go live. Andrea, if you're there, we'd love to go live to you after this. Martin, is it available?
The form is yet not IVDR compatible, only MDR.
Okay, so it's something that everybody needs to keep an eye on, and that will be coming soon. because you've been designated for IVDR, haven't you, recently?
Correct. Yeah.
So keep refreshing that page every single day, everybody, and hopefully in the coming days it will be.
No, there is also there are contacts to TÜV SÜD which you regularly can use. So you can also just use the contact form on our website and request the service there. So if you have the need for this, then approach us. We are there, and we are planning on doing our activities there, and we are open to receive applications.
There you go. You heard it from Martin, open to receive applications. So let's jump to Andrea Biascucci. I'm just going to unmute you, Andrea, and then it would be great if you could just ask your question that you privately messaged to me in the chat to Martin. Here we go. Any moment now.
Yes, hello, Elena. Hello, Martin. So my question really regards the very detailed, do you know of any list available for the industry where we can find the test labs with their specific competencies that can be used?
You were cutting out a lot, so I didn't get the whole question.
Yeah, could you say it one more time, please, Andrea? The connection cut out. Andrea?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah, the exotic place in my case is a train with masks and so on, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, trains are bad for
so
web
my question
conferences.
Yeah. So the availability of test labs, and especially test labs with the expertise needed for manufacturers of active implantable, this is very hard to find. Do you know of any list available for the industry that you would suggest?
Of test labs? I would only suggest our own test labs. Okay, we are a notified body, but we are also a testing organization. So depending on what kind of test you need, make sure you approach your TÜV SÜD representative in your region, and we might be able to figure something out for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrea, for your question. Let's move on to another one and a bit of discussion more around COVID. So Martin, this is from Shekhar. How will the current COVID-19 situation affect the rollout of the new regulations? And do you think, based on the interactions that you're having with manufacturers, that they will have enough time to implement them?
So the second part of the question is interesting because it has already everything been implemented, right? I mean, if you haven't had implemented the MDR by April this year, I would say you were very, very, very late. Now, that being said, I think that the majority of activities, as far as I know from clients I know and manufacturers I am aware of, they've done that already. Now, if you are now in a phase where you implement MDR, yeah, you need to hurry. And of course, there are things that were uncertain half a year ago, and there will be things that will still be uncertain in half a year from now, but that shouldn't stop you from implementing MDR. Now, how COVID affects that, in my mind, is just that it makes things a bit more shaky and unclear, because who knows if in April next year we don't see the next COVID wave coming again, requesting the Commission to postpone the MDR. And that's something I don't know if that happens. So I see a huge challenge that some manufacturers have stopped auditing at their site for notified bodies, so they don't let any other people in. And that is, of course, a challenge because we are obliged to go to facilities, and with doing audit activities remotely, we cannot cover all relevant aspects. And that is currently a huge discussion, of course. However, I think that's the big impact of COVID on the MDR activities. The postponement itself, I mean, yeah, your QMSs and your technical documentation should be ready already.
So actually, and this is something, by the way, that just with companies that we're recruiting for at the moment, you know, speaking to them, for a lot of them, nothing really changed with the pushing back of the date of application, because they just had the plan and they were already really executing on that. But what about just your thoughts on IVDR? Because obviously there was no impact to date of application for IVDR, and actually what that's meant is that the timelines are even more squeezed together. You know, from date of application from MDR to IVDR, you know, it's actually closer together than what it was before. Do you think that we will see a postponement to the date of application for IVDR, or what are your thoughts on that?
Let me listen to my stomach. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, theoretically speaking, if you would have, if you've postponed the MDR, why wouldn't you postpone the IVDR at the same time? So there must be a reason why they didn't do that. And I think that reason won't change so quickly, and the timing is a different one. So I don't know.
So for those IVDR manufacturers that are kind of sitting there hoping, you know, that at the last minute there will be a postponement to the date of application for IVDR, what would be your suggestion to them in a non-consulting way?
I mean, it's the same as what you're seeing in MDR. Yeah, I mean, when were we aware of actually the publication of postponement of the MDR? It was really close to the DOA. Now, I think it's a pretty tough bet if you wait for such a decision. I mean, and why would you do that? I mean, you have to change your systems, and why would you postpone that and delay that? I mean, the earlier you start, the better, because you can stretch activities in case there will be a postponement. So I don't see any good justification for postponing that, but I'm just sitting in a notified body looking on that topic from the outside. So I don't know what needs in businesses might be in place to postpone that. Of course, I can imagine some, but I think in the long run, a good investment is start early.
Definitely.
It was the same with the MDR. Those who started early, in my mind, now have an advantage against those who start late. And those who already have an MDR certificate, they went through this already. They know a bit more than the others, and that, in my mind, is an advantage.
Mm-hmm. No. So we're going to go live to Yasha, who has a question for you, Martin, on MDCG guidance. So Yasha, over to you.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Very good.
Hi, Martin.
Hi.
So my question is related to the MDCG guidance on significant changes under Article 120. Since it now has flowcharts to aid in the decision, the question is whether those flowcharts would but are expected to be included in a justification. So different manufacturers do it different ways to how to justify that the change is not significant. So the question is whether those flowcharts would be expected to be included in this justification.
I mean, that's a good question. And when I remember back my time when I was working in regulatory, I was always happy about the Health Canada flowchart because it was so simple to go through it. And then in the end, okay, I have to submit, or, oh no, I don't have to submit. It was really good. And now that the MDCG guidance is showing these flowcharts is also something I think very, very valuable. In terms of documentation, why not? Huh? I mean,
Okay.
what is the risk with documenting it this way? I won't see any. And in terms of clarity, it might also help to use it. But I see no legal requirement to do it that way. So you are not required that you must do it this way. However, everything that's supporting clarity is good. So I think if you're considering using these flowcharts and documenting in there why you think something is significant or not, feel free to do so.
Okay.
Thanks, Yasha.
Thank you.
Perfect. So Martin, I have a question from Skendra. I'm really sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly there. So it's on Elemed. So how to ensure compliance with the requirements for product registration in Elemed when the system is still not in place? What steps need to be taken by the company before the launch of Elemed? And what can notified bodies require from manufacturers?
So the Elemed topic is a delicate one. I mean, it will be a pretty interesting and very powerful database once it's there. I think the issues with IT projects, a lot of us know, often they are delayed, often specifications get in over time, and then you have to redo them. That's maybe the reason why the agile word comes from there. Everything that you need to do prior to upload information into Elemed, you must do. Every activities connected in the end to Elemed, you must do. However, if there is data you need to receive from Elemed and Elemed isn't there, you can't get that data. However, that doesn't mean that you can't perform an activity. So I think a very good example is if you need to upload documents to Elemed that then will be forwarded to the notified body in Elemed, and then the notified body does something with these documents, the only thing that is missing is Elemed. However, that doesn't relieve the manufacturer nor the notified body from its responsibilities to perform activities. And this morning I've seen this Swissmedic document around Elemed, and I think that's also helping responding to that questions. Notified bodies will, of course, look on how manufacturers implement Elemed requirements into their quality management system. And that's something we will require during an audit to be in place, because the requirements, what needs to be performed, they don't necessarily require Elemed to be there as long as you are stopping at the interface.
So you're basically saying that companies need to be, should not be waiting for any specific announcements on that.
I mean, if you're waiting for announcements all the time, I see, of course, the challenge here, because you have to change your IT infrastructure, and you also have to set up interfaces, and you need to register devices and upload information. Okay, that's a challenge. Yes, some of these activities you need to postpone until clarity is there, what an interface will look like. But only that part of the activities you can postpone, not the activities prior to that. So where the interface comes into play, it would be okay to justify that with the non-existence of Elemed. But collecting data, analyzing information, reporting incidents, you still have to do.
Well, you heard it from Martin. He's told you, don't wait. Crack on and start. And that's actually the message that I hear all the time, you know, with these questions to notified bodies. And yes, we're in situations where there isn't information or guidance, but the message frequently from notified bodies is just do what you can. That's very much what I hear. Yes. Often. And
it didn't change. Yeah, I mean, MDD, AIMDD, they are there for over 25 years now. They were shortly written, yeah, so not so many pages. And everybody was like, oh, there is nothing in there. It's not specific enough. It's not defined well. Then there were all these guidances, and it's always the same. Yeah, well, this is unclear. This is unclear. How to do this? How to do that? Yes, we live in a VUCA world, so there is a bit of uncertainty in everything we are doing. So we need to live with that a bit, and need to do the best we can. That won't change. It will get more extreme.
Definitely. So we're going to go live to Roxane Baxter, who's got a question for you. We're just going to unmute you, Roxane. Hello, Roxane.
Yeah,
Hi.
Thank you. So my question relates to the notified body opinion for a combination product, a drug device combination product that would be submitted under a medicinal product application. So I think a common scenario that we face in the pharmaceutical industry is that we're going to be using a pre-filled syringe and a needle safety device, and that exact same platform for many drugs. I'm wondering, would you envision a time when we would be able to get essentially a platform opinion on a delivery device combination that could be used for multiple drug product applications?
That's an interesting question, and I don't have an answer already, but if I think through that, then I have certain doubts, but that doesn't mean that I'm proven wrong in the future. But I think one always needs to look at the interaction of a substance and the medical device. So it might be, and I'm not a pharmaceutical expert, so I don't have any clue about drugs than taking them. But if there are any interactions, chemical, biological, whatsoever, between a substance and the medical device, that's something that needs to be assessed. I would be skeptical that there will be a wild card for all syringes, so to say, for an organization. But that's something I think we need to really look carefully on. And I'm not really the expert for talking about those specific questions. However, if you need to discuss that with the notified body, we have also expert around that article. So
who would be the person, Martin? Who would be the expert, or where could we find out? Where could we take that question in order to get it answered?
Yeah, first through that MDR inquiry form on our website, because there you can say that you are interested in these notified body opinions, and then it goes through the onboarding process.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks, Roxane. Wonderful. Okay. Martin, are you still there? Yes. Perfect. Okay, great. We're going into kind of the last 20 minutes, and we still have loads of questions flowing in. So keep them coming, everybody. And just do give me a thumbs up if you're finding this useful, and if you're learning and getting value from this webinar. I hope we get more than one person.
Now I take my stress relief card.
A stress relief a squeezy thing, where basically he's kind of giving us an indication that we're putting him under pressure. But that is definitely good. Great, Martin. We've got a few more questions that I want to kind of jump to. One is from Juliet Cook, which is a very short and snappy one, which says, do all medical devices need indications?
I don't know 500,000 medical devices, Juliet. I would say yes. Just blunt.
Okay.
And don't kill me for that, because I don't know all the devices, but indications for use, intended purpose, contraindications, those three things belong together. Otherwise you won't understand a medical device. And if there is no indication for something, why would you use it? Why would it be a medical device? No, we can philosophically discuss that.
So we're going to go live to Ola, who has a question for you, Martin, regarding PRRC. Ola?
Yeah.
Ola, are you still there? Let's unmute you. Okay, sorry, Ola, it seems we're having a technical issue, but I'll read your question out. Martin, should the manufacturer employ a person responsible for regulatory compliance because of MDR? Is it
Should. So you must, if you have a certain size, if you're a small and medium company, you don't need to employ. You can take the service providers, but if you have a certain size and you are above small and medium enterprises as defined by the EU, you have to have that person available in your organization. Clear requirement from the MDR.
Okay, so I'm gonna push back on that piece. Interpreting Ola's question as should the manufacturer employ a person, because based on what we're doing with a lot of manufacturers, some of them are employing these roles from scratch, but other ones are assigning that responsibility to existing employees. So
okay, now I get it.
We can't reach Ola to define that a little bit more clearly, but let's just touch on that point. Do manufacturers need to actively go out and hire new people to be their PRRC, or is there another way to do it?
If you have the required qualification in your organization with a certain person, and that certain person has availabilities to do this job, why would you hire another person? But you need to make sure that that person is available. And there are clear requirements for that person, that what they need to do and what they are responsible for. So maybe it's not the best thing to put this responsibility onto the shoulders of a person that is already loaded with work. So, but that's something which is in the interest of each organizational management. And I mean, it comes back to the question about resources from the ISO 13485. So you need to make sure that you have the relevant people employed in your organization. And if you need to hire someone new, you should hire someone new. And if you have the person available, you're good with not hiring a new person.
Yeah, that just a clarification, because we do see that, and that's, you know, discussions that we're having with companies as well, is, you know, if you can allocate that internally and look at the requirements for your PRRC, they're not super high or highly kind of many years of experience. A lot of companies are looking to just allocate that internally. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to go and hire a brand new person for that. For other people, you know, they're just assigning the responsibility to somebody internally. If, of course, there's somebody that would be happy to have it. And then you have this whole question around liability, right? Which is something that you should all be discussing internally with your companies. So I hope that we've got Sonia Calegaro to ask her question live. Let's try and give Sonia's question a go. Karen, can we unmute her? Yeah. Sonia, are you there? Sonia, you are unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay. I'm going to jump to it. So Sonia's question was, what is the average time for MDR technical documentation review at TÜV?
Depends on the risk class, and an average time, yeah, what helps that? I mean, it could be very quick, a few weeks. It can take months. Depends on the quality of the technical documentation. And that's also based on experience. So if you look back into MDD, AIMDD, I mean, I know of my fastest design dossier assessment, which was 25 days. And I know things that's only my fastest. Yeah, it doesn't mean that there are others who are not quicker than I was. And there are projects that take months, years. It depends on the quality of the data. So an average value there it's not really a valuable input. But the assessment, what we're doing with the technical documentation, and when we're talking about class 3, because those are the most complex ones and those need to go through it every time, that follows more or less the same time frames as it did under the old regulations.
Great. So let's have a look. I'm going to jump to a pre-registered question now, Martin, which is from Jennifer, who is asking, I'm wondering if there's any information available yet to clarify what common specifications as seen in the MDR are going to be exactly.
So the common specification as a legal thing being in place is defined in the MDR and shall give guidance to manufacturers and notified bodies for products where there is limited guidance because maybe of lacking standards and stuff. Maybe can we get that question more precise? What is the core of the question?
Jennifer's not online, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
We will. I'll check with her and maybe drop you a private message after this webinar.
Yeah, that helps.
So Karen is sending me a message because there's somebody that has 5 questions for you. So we're not going to have her ask all 5 questions, but Karen, I'm just going to unmute you so you can introduce that person. Could you clarify who that is?
Okay. So Marie Veron is sending lots of questions on the live chat. So we're just going to unmute her and see what I know. One question has already been answered about the MDR certifications that TÜV SÜD has released, but maybe you can pick one of the others to ask to Martin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's unmute Marie. Marie, please pick your most pressing question. And let's ask one to Martin because we don't want to overwhelm him and make him squeeze the stress ball too much.
So thank you for unmuting me. Good morning. Good morning or afternoon. Well, my most pressing question was related to substance-based devices. So basically, but it's maybe more a general question about several rules of the MDR. So sometimes the wording seems quite understandable at the first reading, but then it's not so easy. For example, I have been asked a question about a substance-based device who's locally dispersed in the skin, but is not locally dispersed into the body. So the question was, do you think Rule 21 is applicable? So I realize you cannot give a consultancy answer, but in this type of case, is it still possible to approach notified body for kind of their share understanding on that? Because it seems with MDR it's no longer possible.
I would think in a direction of, isn't this connected to a classification question? And if it is connected to a classification, in my mind it is. Because if in the skin or into the human body, I don't know if on skin and in skin isn't really such a huge difference. If it is in the skin, it's already in the body. I don't know. Now, I'm not an expert on that, but it might be that this falls under the classification discussions you can do with an authority. Now, if you place an application with a notified body for such a device and you come up with a classification, then you clearly reference what classification rule will be applicable to your device. And if that is a question between you and the notified body, or whether you have unclarity, it will be assessed during the conformity assessment. And if information from authorities is needed, there is the possibility to discuss this with the authorities. I think that is a way that is given by the MDR. If you approach a notified body for asking a question and you want to receive a quick answer, then that very often falls under the consulting challenge, and that is of course not possible. So I think if you have made up your mind around that, because in the end it's the responsibility of the manufacturer to find the right applicable classification rule and requirements to the device. And if you want to get this confirmed by a notified body, the way is to go through a conformity assessment.
Okay, thank you. Quite clear.
Okay. Thanks for your question, Marie. So next, I want to jump to a question on IVDR. So we're really mixing it up here for you, Martin. We're going from all different products, all different regulations. But Claudia, who is also part of the RAPS Swiss chapter, has a question for you. So let's go live to Claudia. Claudia, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're here.
Yes.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. So I know you were more into MDR, but on the IVDR side, how does TÜV expect to have the intended purpose? The IVD regulation does not really define it. We could have it spread through the instructions for use, or do you think it needs to be a separate item describing exactly this is the intended purpose of this assay with all the items that the regulation asks, type of population, sample, method, etc., in one item? Or can we do it throughout the instructions for use and point out that this is spread through the instructions for use?
Yeah, let me answer that question with the counter question from two different viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
As a user or patient, what would you expect? And as a notified body, what would you expect? Now, the notified body question I can help you with. When you talk about a device, an IVD, the same is applicable as for a medical device, that you need to have a clear description of the device. You need to have clarity around the device. So in your technical documentation, it needs to be clear, unambiguous. So if you spread things in different chapters, I personally doubt that clarity is reached. I also doubt that this is in the interest of the user, specifically if it might be, in some cases, a lay person. So there might be a good intention why it's not defined the way it is for medical devices. However, I think, what is the user need here? And if the user need is clear to have everything in one place, I would think that the usability requirement easily becomes applicable to how you structure your instruction for use and your labeling. So I can't give you the, yes, you need to do it in one chapter, or no, you are not allowed to do it in one chapter, or you can spread it out. But I would really focus on who shall do something with this information.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the easiest way and the best way and the clearest way for that person to understand what you're actually talking about. And I think then the conclusion is easily reached.
One chapter. Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudia. Okay, so we're coming into the last five minutes. So I'd love to squeeze two more questions in here. I've got a question, Martin, from Stephanie, who says, now that the MDR has been delayed, can new devices still be CE marked under MDD? And what would you say in the case where a company has been refused by their notified body to give them a CE mark under MDD?
Okay, so if as the MDDA and MDD are now still applicable, legally, you can also start conformity assessment procedures based on MDDA and MDD. It's July now. Would you really want to do that now? Or is it maybe too late? That's a question manufacturers should ask themselves. Yeah. When we look back 1 year, the bookings of employees in notified bodies and the bookings of slots for assessments were quite full. Now with COVID, I see that manufacturers, of course, struggle with shutdowns and maybe suppliers not delivering information. So it might be that some manufacturers want to postpone MDR activities, where I'm personally not really convinced that that's always the best way to do. It might be the easiest way to do something, but maybe not the best. I fear that that will lead into a situation similar to last year. So if you want to do an MDD submission, talk to your notified body if they still allow you to do so. And if they do, and if you are very convinced that you will make it, it could be an option. However, in the end, you'll reach a certification that's only valid for 3 years, and then you have to spend trillions of euros to get an MDR certification. Why would you spend so much money? So that's actually, yeah, I see benefit. I see why manufacturers do that. I don't know if it's in the long run the good thing to do. Now, the question with the refusal of CE certification, that's now, is it because no resources, or is it because of the non-compliant device?
It seems to be that the notified body went back on their promise and now just basically says we're not doing MDD certificates anymore.
Which can be a decision of a notified body, and yeah, I can't judge on that decision. That decision has probably been made with a good intent in mind. It might not look like that, but there is reasons why notified bodies will reject AMDD assessments.
Just a question, Martin, just for, I guess, my own curiosity. If a manufacturer wanted to go with TÜV, but doing an MDD certificate as opposed to under MDR, are TÜV SÜD still accepting applications for MDD right now?
So we follow the legal basis that is there. So I cannot give you a clear yes or no to a specific client asking for MDD. So the focus is clearly on MDR. Right. That's absolutely clear. There might be situations also for COVID, maybe. There might be situations where MDD might still be an acceptable route to take. But if I now say, yes, we all accept all MDD applications, then I know who is killing me. But that's not something I said. So the legal basis is there. However, it's a case-by-case decision, and it really depends.
Really, companies probably need to be really speaking with these, staying in close contact with these.
Yes. And really, you always, as a manufacturer, you really need to look into the challenges this will bring up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the time pressure. I mean, as I said, it's July. If you now decide to submit something, when will you start the assessment? If you have to still compile your design dossier, will you start in October? And then you have time until May 2021? Why? I mean, yes.
For sure. I'm conscious of the time, Martin. So can you believe that hour? I mean, I don't know how much you were feeling there, but that was pretty intense. But everybody, I would love to see kind of like if you got value from that. So we have one last poll before everybody disappears off, which is just some audience feedback. So please take 1 second to just let us know if you got value from today's live Q&A with Martin. And everybody's going, wow, currently at 100% yes.
It's okay to say no.
I think you did a good job, Martin.
Thank you.
I know that sometimes it can be quite difficult to answer these questions, but we do all really value your time and the fact that you answered such a wide range of questions. I'm sorry if you had a question that we weren't able to get to. I just want to let you know that there's other ways to get that answered in my MDR update group. We've got 5,000 people in there that are kind of answering all sorts of questions. We've got virtual lunches that are happening every Friday. And Martin, I think you're joining my virtual lunch tomorrow, aren't you? Mm-hmm. So yes. Virtual lunches are limited to 20 people, but the link is in my profile. So if you really want to pin Martin down and ask him a question, it's not going to be a live Q&A. It's going to be more of a conversation, but feel free to kind of jump in on the virtual lunch tomorrow. Yeah.
And if I have my spaghetti in my mouth, I can't respond. That's bad luck.
One question for you: is that really the background? Is that really the view from your work from home office window?
Well, this is the view of a drone over Marienplatz in Munich. No, this is not. But I see the Alps, so.
Beautiful. So I wanted to just quickly do one group picture for everybody who's still left, to see if we can squeeze everybody into one massive picture that I will then repost. So I don't know if it's possible to do that actually, but I'm going to give it a go. Okay. Hold on a minute. Okay, so I'm going to try and do it, but I've actually got 3 pages of people, so I don't think it's going to work, unfortunately. But everybody smile, and I'll try and get the first page. Cheers. Fabulous. I'm really glad that everybody got value. I hope that we're going to do another one of these soon. And I want to take an opportunity to say thanks, everybody, for joining. Have a lovely day and a lovely weekend.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Thank you.